welcome to another edition of Flea Market Fantasy, the world's second greatest Bronze Age era comic book podcast. Joining me as always is new Mike L, Kevin Jank.
Hang on, Mike Dell. I got to finish painting the nipples on these toys I've been making.
That's not what this guy was doing. What was he painting? No, we'll get into that in a minute. But hey, Kevin Jank, we have a very special guest for this episode. It's our old buddy, author and raconteur, Miles Watson. Miles.
Hello, chimp person.
Yes, chimp person. That's me. Now, Miles, we should apologize at the start of the show because usually when we have you on and have guests on, we like to have them pick the book, but man, it's a lot of scheduling and planning that go into that, and I'm not the best at that sort of thing. It's pretty hard.
Got a lot of naps to take in the meantime, so
yes.
Scheduling falls by the wayside.
I actually thought you were going to say, before we get started, I just want to apologize for our guest.
No. I feel bad because, what was it, the last time? I don't know. It's been a while since you picked a book, I think, because I think last time you were on, I checked the order there in the episodes. Logan's Run. It was like 4 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, time
that
flies.
Definitely gives me... Yeah, I definitely do. I actually had two choices in mind when I was looking at the giant trove of comics, which I normally select my entries on this series from, and I couldn't find either one during the brief time I searched. So I will rededicate myself to the task of picking out some ones, and I'll float them by you because they're pretty good. I just couldn't. There's so many hundreds of comics in the vault that. Yeah, locating things is not easy.
I remember you mentioned one earlier, or this was a long time ago. Hulk and the Thing fight in like Burbank or something, and you used to didn't you live near the place where they were fighting or something?
Yeah. It's a Hulk and the Thing getting a brawl at a movie studio. I believe it's Warner Brothers. They're like filming something, and the Hulk trashes it and the Thing, and they have a scrap. And I remember when I reread it, I was kind of getting a kick out of it because at the time I lived in Burbank, right down the road from where the fight hypothetically took place.
Yeah.
So they were destroying one of the studios, I think, at Warner Brothers, and I was kind of getting a kick out of that.
Well, I'm sure if you go there today, there's a monument for the fight that the Hulk had with the Thing. That's
there should be.
It's commemorated.
Better than some of the monuments they have in Burbank.
But all right, so you'll get to pick a book at some point. But Jank picked this book. So Jank, tell the kids what we're reading here today.
Yeah, I guess it's fitting that Miles is here, considering they have that Drax backup story in that last book that we did, the Logan's Run book.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So we're going to be keeping the Guardians of the Galaxy theme going by looking at Rocket Raccoon, #1, the first of a 4-issue limited series from 1985.
Yeah, and last week, Jake, I was adamant that I never knew this existed or anything. But then the more I looked at it, like the image of Rocket Raccoon, he wears these big green gloves. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen this before now. This is starting to, starting to remember this image. But I still never read this series or anything or really knew this series existed. But I do recall seeing Rocket Raccoon with the green gloves and the gun and everything. So that's interesting. But Miles, are you a fan of Rocket Raccoon in the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Well, when I saw the film, I did think the character was entertaining in terms of like that rant he goes on where he's like talking about how he was a normal raccoon and then one day he was like operated on. And it was actually kind of a gruesome speech that he gives where he's like, he's a freak and there's no one like him in the whole galaxy and he hates himself. And I was like, wow, this movie is taking a turn for the dark.
It's like they took a page right out of my autobiography. Reading
this biography of Mike Dell. He woke up. He didn't know where he was.
I don't feel like I'm the only one like myself in this whole fucking place. But all right, yeah. But yeah, Rocket Raccoon. Bradley Cooper does the voice, right?
Yeah.
Well, but the best gig in Guardians is Vin Diesel doing Groot, right?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Why even waste money paying Vin Diesel to do that? Just get some guy off the street.
That was literally the one role. That was the role he was born to play.
I suppose.
Did he actually bring him in to record new I Am Groots each time at this point, or are they just recycling and still have to pay him?
I don't know, but it's a good gig. Yeah, the reason Jank picked it for this week is, of course, the new Guardians will be coming out maybe by the time this show airs. I don't know.
Yeah. I believe as we're recording, it is being shown in theaters right now.
Yeah, see, this is my whole fake radio history of all the many, many years I've done fake radio. It's always been live, we just record it and then put it out and who cares. But this Mike L character, when he started this show, he's like, no, we got to plan ahead. We got to pre-record. And so everything gets confusing, but Mike L's not even here anymore. We should just record it live and fucking get it out there or whatever. But anyway.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. But so the new movie's coming out. Miles, will you watch the new movie?
I only saw the first one. I never saw the second one. So
really,
I was not. It held my interest, the first one, when I watched it, but it didn't I didn't connect with it the way a lot of fans did. Like a lot of people who saw the film really loved it and they were super hyped and excited and they thought it was this great movie. And I would have been happy to feel that way about it, but I was just kind of I saw it, I kind of forgot about it. It didn't really it didn't resonate with me personally. I kind of wish it had, but
I really liked the first one. I think it was also part of the thing was when it was announced that they were making Guardians movie, people thought, oh, this is going to be terrible. I know that's what I thought. I'm like, this is going to be fucking awful.
Yeah.
And then you get in there and it's completely different than any other Marvel movie, the music and the comedy. And it's oh, well, this is completely unique.
Even the trailers made that pretty clear. So it was people were actually getting hyped before it even came out because the trailer was great. This is oh, this looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed the first one. The second one was pretty good. I only saw the second one the one time. But I
think I saw it probably 5 or 6 times in theaters.
In theaters.
That was back when I was going all the time. So yeah,
that's a lot of quesadillas. Yeah, wow, 5 or 6 times in theaters. So Miles, I'm guessing when you were a lad like myself, you did not read this Rocket Raccoon miniseries. Is this your first?
No, I might be mistaken, but I don't think I'd ever even heard of Guardians of the Galaxy before the film came out. So,
oh, okay.
I can guarantee we did not have any in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comics that me and my brother bought between us during the 70s and the 80s and everything. I guarantee Guardians of the Galaxy was not in that. Maybe one, you know what I mean? Maybe one copy somewhere, lying somewhere, but I was not cognizant that universe that sub universe in Marvel even existed. So
yeah, I wasn't really, I wasn't familiar with the newer team in the movies, but I kind of knew the old team. And we'll talk about that a little later as well. But, yeah, Jank, were you reading? You were obviously you were like a fetus when this came out, but in the 2000s, were you reading the Guardians books and stuff?
Yeah, in the 2000s, kind of after the Annihilation, I did start reading Guardians of the Galaxy. So that was a much bigger team. There was a lot of people on that team. It was probably 12 to 15 people. It was excessive.
That's ridiculous.
So they kind of scaled it down for the movie. Yeah. They were let's have Bug from the Micronauts, Adam Warlock will be on here.
I remember Bug,
just everybody.
Miles, how would that be, writing a story with 12 characters or whatever? Good Lord.
I mean, that's a task. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done, but if you've ever seen the movie The Thing, the one that John Carpenter directed, the kind of all-time horror classic, he explicitly said that when he realized he had that many good actors and they all kind of there are no disposable characters in that story. And he said, the first time I had all the actors in a room and I realized I was going to have to shoot 12 dudes in a room and they all have dialogue and they're all important. He's like, I almost had a nervous breakdown. He's like, I don't even know how to fucking block the scene. How do I even put 12 guys or how many guys in the cast? He's like, how do I put this many guys in a room and position them that it looks natural? And he's like, I'm having a fit. I got to start killing these people as soon as possible. So yeah, it would be daunting.
Yeah, you got to thin the herd. But hey, none of those people in that room were raccoons. So let's get some backstory here on Rocket Raccoon. His first appearance was Marvel Premiere Issue 7, 1976. And he was created by Bill Mantlo and Keith Giffen. Bill Mantlo is the writer of the story we're reading here today. We've talked about him numerous times over the years. And the artist for today's episode is Mike Mignola. We'll get into him later. But Rocket Raccoon was named after the 1968 Beatles song Rocky Raccoon.
Oh.
Now, I've never heard that song, But from what I know about the Beatles, I can only assume it was, what do I always like to say what the Beatles are, Jank? Meandering, self-indulgent bullshit. Is that what it was? Is that what I usually say about the Beatles?
Yeah, probably. This sounds like the Walrus, I'm the Walrus shit, where it's just like they were really on drugs at that point.
So
maybe a song about a raccoon then.
Rocky was revealed to be short for Rocket in his next appearance in Incredible Hulk 271, 1982. Now, Jank, you're a Hulk guy. Did you ever read that one?
Actually, no. I think that was a little bit before I really started getting into the Hulk, so I have not gone back to read that. But yeah, it sounds like it was hard to get to this where Rocky Raccoon is. They kind of mentioned it in this issue. He's in like his own universe and shit. But somehow the Hulk just bashed his way into.
Yeah, there's like a wall or something surrounding his universe, and the Hulk punched his way through.
Yeah.
Like that. All right, so a 4-issue limited series here in 1985. Then he appeared in Quasar 15 in 1990. Fucking Quasar.
Yeah, I don't.
Go check out Quasar Quanology.
Then that was a podcast Mike L also did, Quasar Quanology, where he did every appearance of Quasar. He discussed it. I don't know about that one. Miles.
One appearance of Quasar is enough for me.
Yeah, Miles, do you know who Quasar is?
Life.
No, and this is starting to feel like one of those conversations you have with your Aunt Sally, where she's like, "You remember Joe Braven and Beyonce and you're like, I have no idea who the fuck any of these people are, and I wish you'd shut the fuck up."
All right, well, we'll keep it moving. Then he did 3 issues of Sensational She-Hulk, issues 44 to 46 in 1992, and that's it. So, in terms of that era of Rocket Raccoon, so he only had 10 appearances in his first 30 years of existence.
It's a pretty terrible batting average.
Yeah, how about that? Then he had a brief appearance in the 2006 book Exiles. Jack, would you like to explain what Exiles is?
Exiles was a book where they essentially a bunch of different people from different timelines all kind of got dislodged. Like something went wrong in their timeline and they no longer had a place in it. So these beings called the Time Brokers kind of gathered up some of these people and were like, hey, we're going to put you on a team and have you go from reality to reality, like fixing what went wrong and, kind of writing the path again. And maybe if you do that, then we'll let you go home again.
Hey, wait a minute. That kind of sounds, hey, Miles, you remember that old TV show, Voyagers? Voyagers with John Eric Hexum and that kid? Kind of seems like that. They get around fixing things in time.
Like the time, what was that, Sliders? Yeah.
Oh,
Voyager and Quantum Leap. There were at least 3 TV shows that had that kind of premise, yeah.
He was next seen in 2007's Annihilation Conquest and Annihilation Conquest Star-Lord limited series. Jack?
Yeah, this I think is where they started making Rocket cool for the first time ever. Clearly this issue did not do it. But yeah, they started giving him more attitude, and I think this is where he started palling around with Groot a bunch, so.
Yeah, because if you've never seen the Guardians movies, Rocket is a smartass. He's kind of like and he's like a tough guy, even though he's a little raccoon. And he can build any weapon imaginable, right? He's a marksman and a strategist and that kind of thing. But, in the book we're reading today, he's none of those things, so.
He's just like a scholar. He just wants to read.
He enjoys scholarly pursuits. So in 2008, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was released with Rocket as a regular team member, and that series ran for 25 issues. And then from there, that's the Rocket everyone knows and loves, right?
Yep, I would say that was still kind of early. Then I would say after that series, when they kept relaunching Guardians, which they inevitably always, it was more towards the movies. Yeah, they tried to base a lot of things off of the movie at that point.
Yeah, but now Guardians is very popular. Do they have an ongoing series right now? They have to, right? Guardians.
Yes. Yeah, I think they just keep renumbering it, but yeah. Usually goes about 12 issues and they start all over again.
Hey, here's a little note I want to make sure I mention. In this book, the villains are basically killer clowns from outer space.
Yes. Yep.
Now, Miles,
brothers must have taken some inspiration there.
Have you ever seen that movie, Miles? Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
In fact, it was one of the very first, along with a movie starring an orangutan with Clint Eastwood.
Any which way but loose.
Any Which Way You Can and Any Which Way But Loose were pretty much in perpetual play mode when I got cable when I was 14 years old.
Yeah, they were on a lot. Yeah.
If there were any other movies besides that, it was Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Yeah, that was one of my first cable movie experiences.
Because we watched that for the LCS radio show a couple years ago. Jank, I can't recall. Did we enjoy it?
Partially. It is kind of slow, a little bit boring, but the clowns are awesome. Like, they look amazing.
I do remember being slow and
All
boring.
the aesthetics,
that is what I remember. Slow and boring.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned it. But anyway,
none of the human characters were all that good, but other than that.
So that movie came out in 1988. So Bill Mantlo wrote, this is 85. So they just ripped off Rocket Raccoon for that movie.
Could be.
I mean, that's crazy. That's a connection I never thought would exist.
It's like wrap people up in cotton candy cocoons or anything, but
that is true. But yeah, that's pretty weird when I saw that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we can get into the book now, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about Mignola afterwards. But all right. So, Jank, why don't you describe the cover for us? All
right. It's a very busy cover. I'll give it that much. We get the title up top, Rocket Raccoon. We got a picture of Rocket in the corner box there, gun in each hand, and his weird little green outfit that I just do not like at all.
Yeah, explain. It's kind of like a one-piece bathing suit with a big black belt with a big belt buckle, and then he's got these green like gauntlet glove kind of deals. And
yeah, it's kind of like like an Errol Flynn type thing, except like you said, like a bikini in the bottom almost. Like, what's going on there? He wants to really show off his hairy legs, apparently.
Yeah, I guess it's tough to design a costume for raccoons, but yeah, there it is. And so he's on the cover shooting his gun.
Kind of magic hour, apparently, is when they're filming this, because the sun is going down, the sky is like pink. So then we get Rocket kind of dead center. He's shooting at a clown, one of those killer clowns from outer space. We got all kind of other animals surrounding him. There's one of those chimps that I know you love, that we see later in this issue. There's a robot. There's a Blackjack O'Hare, who's like a bunny guy. And what looks to be a bunch of other clowns surrounding them. And there's just a big old free-for-all going on.
Yeah, we should mention the monkeys are like samurais, but you mentioned Blackjack O'Hare. This is a few years after Michael Golden and Larry Hama created Bucky O'Hare.
Yeah.
So clearly this has to be a nod to Bucky O'Hare, right? Like he's saying, like it's Blackjack, or because it's like the same thing basically. I don't know. Well, his guy's a bad guy though. Yeah, his guy's a bad guy. But yeah.
Although apparently I was doing some reading, and apparently that Lila, his Rocket's girlfriend in this, she ends up marrying Blackjack O'Hare.
What? We'll get into that later. Because that seems weird. But all right, we'll get into that later. Miles, what do you think of this cover of Rocket Raccoon issue 1?
In all honesty, I was not displeased with the cover.
Yeah, it's a good cover.
It's bright. I actually was attracted to the brightness of it, the vivid use of color. The artwork in this is well, we'll get into that later, but I did like the cover, which quite frankly surprised me, given that this is a comic book about a raccoon.
Yeah. How did you feel when I said, "Hey, we're going to read Rocket Raccoon"? Were you excited, or did you like?
My soul died. My body continues to live, but why? I don't know.
So you're not too excited about how do you feel with the general concept of talking animals?
I don't have a problem with talking animals. I think the thing that jarred me when I did a little, because when Guardians of the Galaxy broke so big, and I was like, wow, I was a pretty hardcore comic fan, into college. So I was like, how the fuck did I miss all this? And I did a little background, and I was like, oh, this is actually part of the same universe as all the other characters that I'm familiar with. And that kind of broke my brain because, there's unwritten rules, and, it's like as absurd as most comics are in their ideas and, plots, like the idea that Dr. Doom can build all that incredible technology, his fighting suit, blasters. He can fly around. He's got the entire country on lock with surveillance systems that are 23rd century, but he can't fix his face.
Miles, interestingly enough, we read a Fantastic Four X-Men issue a couple months ago on here, and Dr. Doom healed Storm of the X-Men. She had like third-degree burns over her arm. He healed her skin and her arm, but he couldn't. He still can't heal his face. What the fuck's going on?
It just doesn't make any sense. So I always felt like there was that unwritten rule about like you can take things so far, but you can't have like Batman talking to a talking octopus, or you can't have like Spider-Man talking to a dog that can actually talk back, like talking to Garfield. It just, I thought, I was like, what the fuck is this? But sometimes you just got to roll with it.
So basically what I'm hearing is you would be excited to read a book about a talking chimp. Anyway. So, Jack, when we open up the book, the title of this issue, I guess, is Animal Crackers, I think, right? Is that what we're going with for the title of this book?
I guess so. Because there is a title page later on, but there's no title on that other than Rocket Raccoon, I guess.
So, but we see this like little iguana. Is that what this guy is? He's
looks like it.
Like a toy manufacturer.
He's an old iguana.
And you see a bunch of toys. He's working in his toy shop. And if you look at the bottom of the page, at the bottom right, you see a little toy Rocket Raccoon. Look at that. And then on the left, you see a little walrus and a little Gumby. Like a Gumby sneaking in there. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Put Gumby in there. But this little iguana is working in his toy shop. And you said he was painting on nipples. It almost looks like he's screwing on a Linus and a Charlie Brown, like because of the way that little doll is. Like I don't know what's going on. Yeah. But Jank, explain what happens here at the beginning of this book.
So he is making some toys. Apparently, toy making is very big in this universe. He's apparently he's behind schedule because his parts were late or whatever, but now he's back on track and he's almost done. So he's like, all right, this is pretty great. I'm going to be done here any second. But he's putting in this eyeball, and you can see the reflection in the eyeball. One of the killer clowns sneaking up behind him. And he's just like, is this some kind of joke? And the clown's like, think of it, Toy Smith, instead as a thriller. That's funny and frightening and a real killer diller. That's just terrible. Little Mantlo, you might want to take another pass at this.
Yeah, but the clown just guns down the iguana, just kills him dead. Kills him dead.
And can you just consider the sentence that you just uttered?
The iguana guns down the clown, kills him dead. Yeah, that was the one thing about this, Miles, is it's basically like a war story. Like Rocket Raccoon is caught between two warring factions, but they're not really vying for the typical things you see in such stories. They're fighting over like the toys, the control of toys, and who gets the better toys or something. How did you feel about that?
To marry an otter.
She is a sexy otter. Don't kid yourself. But how do you feel about a book based on a toy war, basically?
I actually have zero problem with that. I mean, if you're gonna talk about the problems behind this story. I mean, this is like logic problems and shit involved in this. This is really the least of your worries.
It was, but it's kind of like underwhelming from when I was reading it. I was like, I guess it's unique and it's quirky, but it's like, oh, they're fighting over toys.
Right. It's what I would refer to as a low stakes conflict. You generally want your story, whatever it is, to have high stakes, whether it's an individual being saved, the princess being saved from the fucking dragon, or whether it's a Star Wars thing. Where
we do get that later on.
Galaxy.
We do get that later on.
Yeah.
But initially,
in fairness, yes.
Yeah, and there are stakes. It's not like it's goofy to us because it's just toys, but apparently without these toys, their whole, universe does fall into chaos and disorder. So
I
as
think
stupid as it is that they're toys, like, it is important in this story.
And I think Mantlo's clearly trying to make like he's saying, hey, this is our world here, that without our distractions and our stupid
commentary
toys,
on religion,
our world falls apart as well. I see
Fair
what he's going here. But it was a little weird at first, a little clunky-ish but anyway, whatever. Jank, you mentioned it's also a comment on religion and stuff because apparently there's I don't know, something called the loonies, like a
Yep.
how would you describe it? As a not a cult, but a
Kind of like a cult, yeah.
almost
They're,
like a
bunch of
commune.
guys.
I think a commune is what I was thinking of. Commune.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good word for it. Yeah, but they just all walk around in straitjackets. And they're called the loonies, and apparently they're the ones who need these toys, and if they don't get their toys, then they're just gonna go completely insane and, the universe falls apart.
Yeah, so he's clearly commenting on society here, right? He's like,
Yeah.
So he's swinging for bigger things, but I don't know. We'll see if he
they were very concerned with the half-world Bible, so clearly these guys are way into their quote-unquote religion of this half-world Bible.
Yeah. Is that what this place is called, the Half World?
Yeah, I believe so.
Right. And, all right, so the killer clown is escaping the toy manufacturer's place after he murdered the iguana, but you can't sneak past the chimps. There's a bunch of chimps on guard there, and they're yelling chim chimmery, and
of course they are.
they attack the clown. And the clown just starts shooting monkeys. So right away, I don't like this at all. I will not tolerate anti-monkey violence. But it also looks like
my favorite part of the entire series right here.
It also
Hundreds
looks like the clown is on roller skates as well. If you see that, he's on roller skates.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool. But Miles, we do not want violence against chimps. We do not want that at all.
Not like the line monkey stew.
No, I do not like it. I do not like it whatsoever. But the killer clown, he murders all these monkeys and he escapes. And but Jank now, hey, they send in the big guns now. Blackjack O'Hare.
Yeah.
And his army of
bunny
rabbits.
Brigade.
Yeah. Filthy rabbits. And they fuck the clown up. They just murder the clown.
Yep.
So, just to recap.
Turns out the clown's a dirty robot.
Yeah, filthy ribbit. So we're
want to get down with the clown.
We're like
someone had to say
it. So we're like 4 pages into this book. We've seen a clown murder an iguana, a clown murder some chimps, and then some bunnies murder a clown.
I can't believe I'm sober doing this show.
A lot to keep track of.
It is a lot to keep track of.
That's why I wanted to pick issue 1 for this series, because otherwise it would just be like jumping into Game of Thrones at the end of season 1 or something and trying to be like, I don't know who these people are, what they're doing.
Yeah. All right. So now we cut away from that horrific scene and we get to some idyllic looking paradise, a waterfall, a bunch of trees and whatnot, a little lagoon. And we see Rocket Raccoon and he's smoking a pipe and he's doing his scholarly research. But,
yeah, his girlfriend wants to go swimming, but he's just like, nope, I'm busy trying to read this Bible that I can't even read because it's not in a language I understand.
Now let me ask you this, because, Rocket Raccoon is a raccoon and he's dressed, he's wearing clothing here. Now we see his girlfriend, she's an otter and she is wearing clothing as well. And then she just loses her clothing. And we see her completely in all her otter glory, just standing there.
That's right.
This is a little racy, no? I mean, what are we doing here?
Well, the more disturbing thing is when I was trying to look up, whatever happened to Lila in the comics, there was like one of the things that was popping up was like Lila and Rocket fan fiction. I'm like, what?
Oh no!
No.
Miles, please tell me you've never written Lila and Rocket fan fiction, because you're very
well. Not before today. I haven't, but I'm not going to lie.
Inspired.
I mean, I just all I could think of was how Twilight got started, and my fingers just raced for the typewriter keys.
But I was taken aback when you see the little otter get naked. Technically, hey, what are we doing? Yeah, put a bikini on.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there like a whole porn subset thing about like?
Oh yeah, if you're mistaken,
dinosaurs?
you don't know. Yeah, okay, Miles, sure, you don't know. Yeah.
Well, I
If you
look
can
it up
imagine
on
it,
Amazon
there's
right
a
now.
porn category for it.
Yeah.
I did find that disturbing. That there's apparently people that actually actively fantasize about being fucked by like velociraptors, which
Oh, wow. That's weird.
I just don't.
That is a little
That
strange.
does not
Yeah.
compute.
Obviously, if you're going to fuck a dinosaur, you go with the spitter, the Dilophosaurus.
Jank knows his
Obviously.
dinosaurs. Yeah.
All
right,
your name
let's
down
get
for
back.
a
Let's
special
get
list.
back to the big issue here, the naked otter. And she jumps in the water and she starts swimming around. And there's also a walrus here. Now, this walrus is the otter's. Wait, I was a little confused. on their
Uncle, I
relation-
think. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
thought
know.
it said uncle,
That's what I thought.
but I
as
don't know
well.
how that happens.
Yeah, I don't know how a walrus can be the uncle of an otter, but I guess we're just going to go with it. I don't know.
But at least the walrus isn't creepy because like Rocket jumps in and he's swimming around with his girlfriend. And they're like, "Hey, you want to join us, Uncle?" And he's like, "No, that doesn't sound appropriate. Like, you guys are like fooling around in the water there. You probably don't want your uncle joining in."
But at least Rocket kept his bathing suit on the whole time. You know, he's a gentleman. But he's
got
frolicking
modesty.
with his naked girlfriend there. But the walrus goes over and he screws in tusks. He has like a bunch of tusks he can screw into his mouth. That comes into play later. And then Miles,
Tusks.
a bunch of the Keystone cops show up.
Yeah, what the hell was their function in this?
Well, I guess they're the police force for the loony commune or whatever, and Rocket is kind of like their boss, so they're coming to tell Rocket that there's trouble.
But he holds them in utter disdain and contempt.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Like Mantlo, come up with something maybe besides the Keystone Cops, like something that's already been done repeatedly. I was a little confused there, but I guess
it's an easy joke, I guess.
Yeah, but why not make them squirrels or something? Just you know, no, they're just humans. Human dudes.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. I didn't get how humans are like some part of this world and not, but yeah, the cops are
and the loonies are like that too.
They're human as well. So I thought this was going to be a complete monster verse or creature verse, but no. Yeah,
so the cops tell Raccoon, hey, a toy maker got assassinated and a clown was responsible. And Rocket's like, uh-oh, there's trouble brewing. So he puts on his gloves and he's ready to go, you know? Cause he's like the big guy here. He's like the Kojak of, I don't know, he's like the big cop. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Sheriff, we're going to go out and beat people who don't look like us today.
No. But
Rocket is very scholarly, so maybe he's the Quincy of this.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
He's going to investigate
Quincy
these crimes.
Finally, a cool reference to mitigate all these stupid Chimp and Alf references. Thank God.
But
that
book that Rocket was studying there at the lagoon or whatever, it was the Bible, right? So he has to return the Bible to the loony church.
Yep.
And so he takes it back, and we see all the guys in straitjackets, and they do some bizarre ritual where they all tie each other's straitjackets up. But then the last guy in line goes nuts because no one can tie his up, and it's fucking weird, man. I don't know what's going on here.
I think you just form a circle.
Yeah.
And then they can,
Jank just solved the
maybe
problem.
just don't do a straight line. Yeah. I should be king of this world. Got all the answers.
But what if you're like an 8-year-old kid who bought this book because you're like, oh, look, a raccoon. And then like you're reading this, like, what the fuck is going on in this goddamn book?
Yeah. They're called the Good Humor Men.
Yeah, that's right. The good humor, like the ice cream.
The Earth reference there.
Yeah. That was a throwback to my childhood.
Yeah. That was, well, my nephews are very little. I think they had, I used to get them Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man ice cream bars made by Good Humor.
Yeah, those were great.
Yeah.
The gumball eyes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good time. But they didn't have a Rocket Raccoon one. But anyway, so Rocket goes in. Who's the leader of, cause it's like a lizard too, the leader he's talking to, the guy who runs this toy area. What's this guy's name?
What's his name? Lord Dine with a lot of Y's? Or
Okay.
maybe it's Divine. It's hard to tell with the lettering in this issue.
Yeah, I was confused about the lettering on a few occasions as well. But yeah, so there's this, what kind of lizard is this guy? What is that exactly?
There's an iguana, right? Or no. No, it isn't an iguana. It's shit. But it is familiar looking, isn't it?
What were the kind of lizards that your cat Spike used to murder, Miles?
Oh, they were just garden lizards. It didn't look like that, but he also fought skinks, but I don't think it's a skink either. It's too fat and round.
Yeah, but it's some sort of lizard. I don't know. Or maybe a frog with teeth. I don't know. He looks so weird. But, all right.
Like a snake frog, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, he's like the leader of this area of the toy war, and he's bringing in Rocket to go because they found the head of the killer clown. They're like, look, this means it's the other guy, the other warring faction of this toy war. He's behind this. You need to go over there, Rocket.
All he does is make killer clowns. Who else could it be?
That's all
it didn't
he
need
does.
Quincy for this one.
It's a mystery worthy of Quincy.
But then this guy, this skink or garden lizard or whatever the fuck he is, he's also like he's got eyes for Rocket's lady, you know. Mm-hmm. He's like, that is one sexy otter, and Rocket says, hey, touch my lady with your cold-blooded claws, Divine, and I'll tie you in knots. Look out, Rocket's a tough guy, you know.
Yeah, he is. When he puts the books down, he can still fuck shit up.
Yeah. So, all right, Jake, what happens now?
Let's see. So they fly off. They get to Rocket's ship, the Raccoon.
Yeah. Now look, it's spelled R-A-K-K here, right? Raccoon. Yep. I think later on in the issue it's spelled R-A-C-K. So
oops.
That's an editor thing. You got to look out for that kind of stuff.
Inconsistency in Bill Mantlo? I don't believe it.
But. Yeah, so they go to their ship, Rocket, the walrus, but they leave his girlfriend behind unattended. That seems like a bad decision.
Yeah. That was a problem. Yep. Not even the walrus is gardener, so yeah. Big mistake. So they fly off and they're gonna go try to find out, you know, what's going on with this other toy maker, who apparently is also Lila's like guardian. I think it says like, doesn't it say like he killed her parents and then somehow became her guardian? Like, that's weird.
Her parents ran the other toy manufacturing place, and he was like their top right-hand man. Then they died somehow. I imagine he probably murdered her parents, right? We'll learn that at some point.
Oh,
and then
I'm sure.
And then he became her guardian, but because he's her guardian doesn't mean he doesn't want to have sex with her. That's not what that means at all.
Everyone is after that hot otter ass.
Yeah, everyone wants the otter, including Mike Dell. I'm perturbed by the fact that Mike Dell wants the otter as well.
I grew up watching Emmett Otter's Jugman Christmas, so I have an affinity for otters. What can I say? I'm attracted to the otters.
Hey, Lila, I've got a hole in my wash tub.
So yeah, he's going over there to this other. It's called Mayhem Mechanics. Judson Jake's proprietor. That's the name of the other toy manufacturer. Mayhem Mechanics.
Easier, I guess.
Hey, look, they have a little rat with a gun. If you look at the next page, this little rat looks like a badass. He's got a grenade on his belt, and he's standing on a bunch of rivets. Man.
Oh yeah. You probably kick Rocket's ass.
I know. That would be a good fight. So while he's going to investigate this, what's his name? Judson Jakes.
Judson Jakes.
All right, so that's Layla's guardian. So while Raccoon's going to talk to that fella, back at the other place. Hey, Miles, look at this lizard now. He looks like he has a scarf like Doctor Who or something.
He does have a scarf like Doctor Who, and it's so much like the scarf from Doctor Who, I can't believe that it's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theorist that I am.
But so this guy that sent Rocket on his mission, now he pulls over his buddy Blackjack O'Hara, that bunny, that killer bunny guy, and he's like, hey, Blackjack, now that Rocket's out of the picture here, I think it's time I get to make sweet, sweet love to that otter, you know? So why don't you go kidnap that otter for me?
There was a cool detail here I liked where like they took the entire panel, like the last panel, and then put it on the view screen in this scene here, including like the narration boxes and everything.
That was cool.
The dialogue bubbles. Like that was fun.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of like when someone on TV is watching themselves on TV. It's like, I can go all the way in there.
Yeah.
So Blackjack O'Hara goes to kidnap Layla the otter, and Layla the otter is just hanging around, I don't know, with all the loonies, and she sees a turtle, or some turtle guy with a sheet pulled over his head. Miles, were you excited that we get a turtle now in this story?
I was, at this point, I just was like, fucking bring it on, man. When are we going to have that character, like the shark-headed character that somehow is like a land shark? Are we going to have,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
or a lone
are
shark.
there really any rules? I mean, we've got robot clowns. We've got the otter slut. We've got,
hey, how dare you? That's my beloved Layla. How dare you?
That filthy abomination of a harlot.
Yeah, like they're doing a whole lot in this book, man. You may want to just narrow the focus a little bit. Maybe narrow it up a little bit. But,
you want to add more characters later on, you can, but
yeah, there's
it's a lot for one issue.
So, Miles, do you remember who this turtle is or what he does? I think he's some sort of a researcher, right? He also enjoys scholarly research, I believe.
Yeah, he's like the Rupert Giles, or he seems to be like the brain, the scholar.
I don't know who Rupert Giles is. Should I just pretend I do?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
As Buffy's watcher on Buffy.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. Because I knew it had to be something weird, because it was a reference that Jank clearly got right away, and I did not get.
Yep.
So the only thing that really
he
connects
does all the research.
The two arch enemies of Miles Watson and Kevin Jank is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's the one common ground they have. So
I will say this. The Rupert Giles character is based on pretty much every Hammer horror, tweed-clad British guy who knew, who was consulted. How do we defeat the mummy? Well, according to legend. So, like, that's what. Hence my reference.
All right, I get it now. But this turtle guy, he wants to, like, steal the Bible, right?
He turns out to be.
He's apparently the only one who can actually read it.
Because, like, this Bible, no one can understand it. Like, there's a code in it or something, and they're all trying to, like, decipher it. Is that what's going on, right? Something like that.
Yeah, nobody, like, speaks that language anymore or whatever. So, but he apparently still does. So he's, like, the only one who can actually read it. So he replaces it with, like, a decoy and takes the book.
Yeah. And Layla kind of recognizes him, and she goes to track him down because she hates this turtle. I can't remember what was the connection. I read this a while ago. What was the connection with the turtle?
I think just because, stealing the book will, kind of like not having toys. It'll throw the whole universe into balance, or out of balance. Dogs and cats living together.
I should have loved my beloved Rocket, but there's no time for that. Pico is the name of the turtle. Pico would be long gone by the time Rocket arrived. So Layla just takes up a gun. She's packing heat.
Yeah.
And she's going after him. But when she's tracking down the turtle, she gets snagged out of the shadows by Blackjack O'Hara. I like the sequence of panels here of her walking with the gun. She gets grabbed, and the final panel is just a gun on a solid black background. She's abducted now, so that's pretty good.
It's like the movie Taken.
Yeah, kind of.
But now we get the big stakes here, because Rocket's got to get his lady love. We got to protect his lady love from that evil guy, the Doctor Who lizard. All right,
all the evil guys.
So now we come back to Rocket's ship with that walrus guy, and all the killer clowns are coming after them now. And there's a giant nutcracker as well.
Yeah.
A giant nutcracker.
I guess that's a nutcracker.
Yeah,
sure.
It doesn't look like a nutcracker, but...
No, it's more like, I don't know, some weird surgical tool.
So then Rocket goes out of his ship, and he's got little, like, rocket skates on, and he's flying around with just his shoes. And there's a good panel of him looking all freaked out. because now he sees a bunch of killer clowns and like zombie bears and lions and shit coming at him. And yeah, this Jasper Jakes guy or Judson Jakes. He's like a mole. Is that what he is?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
I can recognize my animals. Don't fuck with me and animals, Miles Watson.
Is it a mole? Is that what he is?
I think. I don't know. It looks like a mole.
Yeah, I think so.
So there's a big
mole, though.
There's like a big fight now, and Rocket Raccoon's like shooting him with his rocket skates as well as his gun. That's a pretty cool little move he's doing there. And yeah, I don't know. How'd you feel about this fight scene, Miles Watson?
He certainly doesn't seem to be overly challenged by the Psycho Circus. Is that the?
I forgot. Yeah, the Psycho Circus.
Yeah, he's fighting a Kiss song. It's yeah, he fucks them up. These clowns and various things are really not that great, although they are very effective against chimps. They don't seem to be. Hey, I'm just telling it like it is, man.
Yeah, I know. I can't really argue. You are correct. That's a factual statement. They did fuck up the chimps.
But as far as anybody else goes, they seem pretty fucking helpless. I mean, I don't know what else to say on that score.
And Rocket's walrus buddy screws in some new tusks, and these are like laser guns.
Yeah. Well, even before that, he had one tusk that was like a wrench.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Hey, you know who my favorite walrus is? Chumley from Tennessee Tuxedo. Let's take a moment to remember Chumley. He was great.
Moment of silence for Chumley.
For Chumley.
Godspeed, Chumley. All right, so the fight rages on, and then eventually Rocket talks to Jasper, the little mole there, and he says, "Until Lord Divine lies dead, and your lovely Lila becomes my bride, thus making her fortune mine." Man, everyone wants this otter. And
yeah. What am I missing? Should I start dating otters? Because I will.
Yeah, he will. And then Rocket's like, "Lila, marry you? You're mad, mole." Yeah, so he is a mole. Well,
yeah, there we go. Confirmation.
and the mole guy, he just says, too true, too true. Yeah, he accepts that he's mad, and he's not mad at it at all. He's like, yeah, I am mad. Deal with it. But now, Jank, that Pico, the turtle guy, shows up. And
yeah.
Well, what is he?
He's like, I ain't taking your shit anymore.
Does he also want to fuck Lila? Or is this?
Yeah, pretty much. I think so. He says, I do. I may be in your employ, Jakes, but I hold the patent on the Psycho Circus, and I refuse to stand by and see my toys destroyed when their destruction furthers no logical end. Jakes, you seek to destroy Lord Divine, that you might seize his space wheel because you are merely steward over Mayhem Mechanics. The only way to own this factory is by marrying the otter Lila. Her parents created Mayhem Mechanics. Upon Lila's coming of age, ownership resides in her. You know, Jakes, that Lila loves Ranger Rocket and would never consent to such a marriage. Lord Divine should know that as well. And yet, look. Yeah, we see that Lord Divine's got her captured, thanks to Blackjack O'Hare. Yeah, I don't know what his actually plan was there. He's the chaos agent, just thrown in the middle.
Yeah, also, Jack, I would have appreciated
show you that they have
if you would have read it in the voice of Turner D. Century. That would have made it better. Miles, last week on the show, we did a book where there's a villain named Turner D. Century who is from, he wants everyone to live like it's the early 1900s. And Jank had a banner voice for him, and he was doing it. It was great. And
we need to find more books like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
with that voice,
jealous I didn't come up with that name for myself.
Yeah, Turner D. Century. And his goal was, he has a bicycle horn. He rides around on a bicycle built for two, and the second seat is occupied by a mannequin lady dressed like a Victorian dress and everything. And his big weapon was a bicycle horn that was going to murder everyone under the age of 65.
So, despite the fact that he himself, 40.
Yeah, tops, 40 tops.
Did he understand the world he was going to create with that, or no?
Yeah, he just wanted he liked the old people because they could appreciate the old traditional ways. But those young whippersnappers under 65, they stink. So he was going to murder them all. But just relax though, Miles, because Spider-Man and Dominic Fortune saved the day. So don't worry. You're safe.
Wow.
Eternity Century. But, anyway.
It's
All right,
dynamite.
getting back to Rocket. So Rocket, yeah, they show him on the video screen that, Rocket, that Layla's been kidnapped. And Rocket's like, holy shit, I'm pissed now. And, Lord Divine's kidnapped Lila, my soulmate. And that really makes my fur fly. And that's how the book ends.
Yeah, really good shot of Rocket here at the end in this last panel. Really looks good.
Yeah, he looks mean. So, Miles Watson, how do you feel? Oh, next issue, the Mask of the Red Breath.
I think that was what broke my will to continue at that point when I looked down at that and I'm like, a deep soul groan emitted from my chest.
So, Miles Watson, how do you feel about the writing here by Bill Mantlo? Hey, I think now that we mention it, I think Mantlo, for you, Miles, if you remember, we did the Micronauts, right? Weren't you here for the Micronauts?
Yeah, I think that was my idea, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because I grew up with them.
Yeah, and Bill Mantlo wrote that issue, so if you remember that. And I thought we kind of enjoyed that book. So
I did think Micronauts was pretty good now that I remember it. I mean, it was a little, it's offbeat to say the least. And he definitely, like, overflows. He's very committed to his world building, his creative surround. Like,
yeah.
his stories seem to overflow with ideas, sometimes to the point of, like, dude, like, turn the tap off. Like it's just a fucking comic book. You're not writing Dune.
Take it down about 15% over there, Mantlo, you know? Just take it down.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate people with overflowing imaginations. I respect that. But, like, sometimes you got to rein it in. I mean, like, especially in a format as rigid and sort of disciplined as a comic book is, where you have limited number of panels, limited number of words, you know, very high concept. And I did kind of respect that, even though this comic is clearly absurd and ridiculous from just the very name of it is fucking absurd. There's definitely a commitment to some world building here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's definitely, as you pointed out, and I think this escaped me because I'm so literal minded, initially, there's obviously some very heavy societal satire going on here, as well. So a lot of times animals are used in allegory, you know, like Animal Farm would be the most classic example of that. So I guess that softened my attitude a little bit towards this absurdity in that, but I did find it a bit painful to, you know, dancing lunatics, sexy otters, fucking robot clowns. I did sort of feel as if somebody had done a shit ton of drugs before they did this. And I mean those old 1972 blotter acid style drugs.
Yeah, Jake, there's a lot of creativity here, a lot of good ideas, but like we said, maybe focus a little bit more, slim it down there, the focus. But what do you think overall, Jack?
Yeah, I would have to agree. There's a lot of ideas here, which is probably a little too much for a 4-issue limited series. Maybe this was going to be an ongoing thing. You could start setting up some of those breadcrumbs and they'll pay off later. But yeah, it was a lot. That's for sure. This definitely, I could see why this never really caught on and why this version of Rocket never really went anywhere, because it's a lot to take in, and even the character himself is not that interesting, at least not in this issue. So
yeah,
that's a good point.
I think would it be better if they simplified things and forgot about all the toy crap? Because really, you have the two factions in the toy war, but really they're fighting over the otter. You know, why not just streamline things? Maybe forget all the loony stuff and the toys, and just focus on a little story about this princess who's kidnapped. And I
mean, I guess it does make sense because they just, you know, it would be weirder, I guess, in a way that they were all just fighting over this otter just because she's so hot and they want to bang an otter. Well, at least it makes more sense than
everyone does
in marriage. Like, yeah. they're doing it for power.
Well, yeah, but you could just make it the power of the kingdom or whatever, the fortune of her family or whatever, instead of, I don't know, whatever. I think the loony part was a little too much. Like, it just seemed like, why are we doing here? Let's just, I don't know.
That was the part that kind of, dragged a little bit. And it was like, yeah, this is a little too much. This is kind of like, you know, those early issues of Excalibur where they just had like weird random shit that Alan Davis wanted to draw.
Yes.
And it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Now
that you mention it, this is very much like that aspect of Excalibur. Now that you mention it, that is a good comparison. Yeah. Also, Miles, I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Bill Mantlo, but it's a horribly tragic tale.
No.
He was like, how old was he when it happened, Jank? Like 38, maybe 40, somewhere around there.
I don't know.
But he was out. He was trying to get out. He was studying to be a lawyer and stuff. He's going to get out of comic books. He's out rollerblading, and he got hit by a car. And he's been in assisted living ever since. And that was and like he can kind of function. His brain is like fucked up, so he can kind of realize what he did as a creator, but not really. You know, it's a very sad story. So the good thing about this, though, Rocket Raccoon stuff, though, he created this character way back in, the late 70s when he first appeared, and, really did nothing for the first 30 years of existence. And then the movies come out. He had to get a cut of that, right? Rocket Raccoon. He had to do a little percentage of that.
I would hope so. I mean, comic books, I don't know how far we should get into this, but like if you look at the state of the comic book industry is terrible, and the non-manga comic book industry is pretty bad sales-wise, and I think a lot of that has to do with this is a very broad topic. We could perhaps have a couple episodes on in and of itself, but like basically what would be referred to today as content creators for comic books have traditionally and historically been fucked by the terrible, terrible contracts that they sign. But like if you even just look in the the guy who created Ghost Rider and what was done to him, to the point where they prevented him from even autographing Ghost Rider comics at cons that he personally didn't have any, if he didn't ink them, he wasn't allowed to autograph them, or some shit because of this lawsuit. I mean, there's a long, rich tradition of boning the artists and story, idea people in the comics world. And I think that's finally come back to haunt them in the age of the internet, where there are some parallel economies and escapes that authors can get into. But I would say that I would hope that his estate takes care of him with whatever money they've got. But I wouldn't be shocked if somebody told me, they gave him a nickel and then, a shitty broken brass watch from a pawn shop, and that's what he got in return for his, because, a lot of those people have the kind of Disney style rule of any idea you have when you work for us belongs to us. So you can be the most brilliant guy in the world and come up with Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Thor, Hulk, all that. But if you do it on their watch, all of that belongs permanently to them. If you get fired, it's not yours, it's theirs. So I hope, especially
that does make sense.
Tragic story that, but it
definitely should be paying them for that. But
right, and I
see why they have
the logic behind it, but it's a horrific exploitation on one hand, and it's a logical business move on one hand, but it's on the other, it's a horrific exploitation of talented people who end up, with nothing, who've come up with Titanic, and now in the modern era of comics being more successful as films than they are as comics. Of those people getting fucked and watching, billions roll into corporations that had literally nothing to do with their creation. They just bought an intellectual property that belonged to a defunct company, kind of situation. So, like I said, this is a rich topic that we could go into at length, but.
Well, I was able to Google things, and I should have done this before the show, but I'm not a professional. But I was Googling things. And Mantlo, here's a story from 2014 that Marvel set up a private screening for Mantlo of Guardians of the Galaxy and his caretakers and everything. And they said he loved it. He had a great time. And then there's a little paragraph here at the end. Bill was treated in an exceptionally fair manner by Marvel/Disney. And on his behalf, I can say with the utmost confidence that we are very pleased with the negotiated contract. So, and unbeknownst to all, Marvel has made incredibly generous gestures apart from this particular contract, which only pertains to the right to the character Rocket Raccoon, to assist in Bill's ongoing care and rehabilitation. So how about that? So
that makes me very happy. If it's accurate, then that's very good to hear, because nothing is more disgusting than, when you hear somebody dying in poverty who came up with a great idea that makes millions for people that had nothing to do with it, didn't lift a finger, to to facilitate its existence. So if he's getting taken care of, then I'm happy. That's nice.
So that's pretty great. And I should mention the quote I was reading was from Michael Mantlo, Bill's brother. So
good.
It's not like Marvel putting that up.
Yeah. And other good news, Bill Mantlo is also 71 years old, meaning he'll be safe from Eternity Century's horn.
Thank God.
Which was my real worry all along.
At least Mantlo. So yeah, this makes me feel a lot better about Guardians of the Galaxy because there's certain individuals involved with that movie I don't like, but the fact that Bill Mantlo is getting taken care of because of it. All right, well that's cool. So nice.
Yeah, agreed.
That is a hell of a story then when you think about it. That Rocket Raccoon, this forgotten character, comes back all these years later to save his creator, basically, at the end of his life. How about that?
That's a very interesting way to look at it, and a very positive way to look at it.
It's pretty great.
It's a sometimes sort of minor character comes back to save the day. I like that. Wow, that was very uplifting.
Yeah, you don't usually get that from me.
No, I don't know. Are we really talking to Mike Dell or a robot clown version of Mike Dell?
So let's talk about the art.
He's been smitten by that otter, so he's a new man.
The love of a good otter can change a man. So let's just talk about the art here for a second, because this is Mike Mignola. Now, Miles Watson, does that name mean anything to you, Mike Mignola?
No, it doesn't, I'm ashamed to say.
Because he's a very famous artist, and he's the guy who created Hellboy.
Okay.
You familiar with the Hellboy?
I'm very familiar with Hellboy. I did not read Hellboy growing up, though. I'm only familiar, full disclosure, only familiar from the films.
Hellboy didn't, interestingly enough, Hellboy didn't come into play until 1994. When it came out. I thought it was earlier than that. Jank, did you know? I thought it was a little earlier than that. But
yeah, I guess I would have put it earlier 90s.
But anyway, Mike Mignola, he was born in Berkeley, California in 1960. That had to be something, growing up in Berkeley in the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah, no drugs for him.
His first published piece was a Red Sonja drawing in a 1980 issue of the Comic Reader when he was 20 years old. That's what he got out. In 1982, he graduated from the California College of Arts with a BFA in illustration. In 1983, he started working for Marvel as an inker on Daredevil and Power Man and Iron Fist. He started working for DC in 1987, and he drew the cover for Batman 428, Death in the Family, which I guess is kind of an iconic cover of Robin, like his face. It looks like he's dead, on the cover. Jack, you're familiar with that, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Read that a couple times.
In 1989, he drew the Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom one-shot story. I think wasn't the premise of that was like they went into hell or
to get Doctor Doom's mom out, get her soul out of there.
From Mephisto, In 1990, he drew the Wolverine one-shot, Wolverine: The Jungle Adventure. I remember that. I had that when I was a kid. That was great.
I actually have 2 copies of that because I bought it and then forgot I bought it, so I bought it again.
Like years later, you bought it again, or like a week later? You bought it, like, what was the time?
I think it was a couple of years later. Yeah,
okay,
but for some reason I hadn't updated it in my database, and mistakes were made.
Yeah. See, Miles Watson, this Kevin Jank fella, he has a database of all his comic books.
A database, I like it.
Yeah, database.
Kind of like my vault. Is it like my vault, which is the shelf in my mom's house where a bunch of comics sit in a closet?
That's kind of what I have. But he has a database. Okay. And Jank, tell Miles the total number of comic books that you own.
Let's see. Let me get the updated total here.
Oh, it's been updated. He's purchased more books since the last time we spoke.
Yep. I did go to the comic book store last weekend. And oddly enough, they were apparently on the same thread as I was, because they reprinted this whole Rocket Raccoon series as like a $7.99 reprint book. So
nice.
Current total 16,405.
How about that? You impressed, Miles Watson?
How do you store all that?
It's a good question. Not very well.
His apartment is like 98% comic boxes and 2% living space. Just all
Like every closet is just kind of stacked with short boxes. couple of other areas in the bedroom, just wall to wall. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Kind of speechless.
I'm not proud of myself.
No, you should be proud of yourself. It's a life's work. In 1994, Mignola and Dark Horse published Mignola's creator-owned Hellboy: Seed of Destruction, and that's 19. And speaking of create your own stuff, we should mention that on the credits page of this here book, Rocket Raccoon, it says created by Bill Mantlo and Keith Giffen. So at least they were giving Mantlo the creator credit even back in '85, because that was rare for Marvel, right? They would rarely do that, but Alan Moore described Mignola's style as German expressionism meets Jack Kirby. And that is an incredible description. I hate Alan Moore, but that is an incredible description of his work. Now, Miles, if you're looking at his art in this issue, you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because that doesn't seem like it. But if you showed someone this artwork, they would never guess it's Mike Mignola. This is not how he draws now. Like, it's completely different style.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
This was very detailed, like all kind of little tiny line work. It's vastly different. His Hellboy stuff was very sparse.
Yeah, for Hellboy, it's like simple, geometrical, almost sharp angles.
Lines.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. You should check it out, Miles. Google up like Mike Mignola Hellboy art or whatever. I think you'd dig it. But he was also the illustrator for Francis Ford Coppola's 1992 movie Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah. About that. And I don't know, anything else we should know about Mike Mignola there, Jank, that you'd like to mention?
I remember him doing like occasional pinups and kind of covers for Marvel in like the late 80s. I remember there was a whole thing, like one of those annual crossovers between like the X-Men and the New Warriors and the New Mutants, I think. And he did like the covers for those that were really cool looking. They were more his style.
Yeah, he never had like a singular run on anything on Marvel. You know what I mean? He did covers, one-shots, prestige format books and stuff like that. But and then after '94, his whole career is basically Hellboy, and he did other stuff, but he did a lot of Hellboy.
Yeah, that's what he's
for. Yeah, Hellboy. So, how did you feel about the art in this book, though, Miles Watson?
Well, I can't say that it was making me jump up and down with joy. I did like some of the panels. Overall, I mean, I feel like I'm normally kind of a pretty harsh critic of artwork on these things, or at least I think I am. Maybe I'm not, but I think of myself that way. I thought this had a bit of a slovenly kind of feel to it, but at the same time, at the same time, the absurdity of everything that's happening with clowns and all that, like there were nice touches, like when the guy sees the eyeball.
Yeah.
The reflection in the eyeball, and he sees the clown coming. There were nice touches. Or when the raccoon destroys one of those Psycho Circus clowns with his, he uses his foot jet, whatever that thing, he's got like jet feet, like he uses like a back shot. And I did kind of think that the clown designs were sort of minimalistically cool. But was I entranced by the art? No, I was not. The colors were a little more impressive to me in the sense it was kind of a light, bright comic. Like if you look at the Psycho or the crazy people in the straitjackets dancing, like there's a lot of light colors in this, yellows, whites. It's kind of a lighter, brighter type of feel, which I kind of liked. But the artwork I wasn't crazy about it. It wasn't hostile to it either. It just didn't do that much for me.
Yeah, again, he's like 24 here, 2 years out of college, so yeah, he's finding his way. But yeah, if you're reading this, you're like, oh, Mike Mignola, you're not going to recognize the art. You're not gonna,
not at all.
You're not going to see Mike Mignola art here. But I thought he did a good job. I mean, it's fine. Nothing. There's a couple really cool panels. He did put in a lot of work, a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Especially in the backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, his take on Rocket was pretty cool.
Scott, yeah, I thought it was great. Rocket looks amazing. He really put a lot of detail into that face, like every time you saw it. Clearly he drew an otter sexy enough that it was able to ensorcel Mike Dell here.
The otter porn. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Should we be praising that? That's a deeper philosophical question here.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he managed to turn Mike's perversions from chimps into otters, I don't know that that's really, worthy of praise.
That's a lateral move, as they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good stuff. Again, it's not classic Mignola, but it's solid. It's fine. Tells the story fine. There are a couple panels a little weird, but there's also a lot of really good ones too. So yeah, I liked it. But it's just, it's not Mike Mignola though. That's a weird thing to say, but it's not. Anyway.
Yeah, it's vastly different. I mean, we've seen people do early work, like early Walt Simonson, where it's like, oh, that still looks like Walt Simonson. It's different, but it's still, you can tell. Like this, you give me a bunch of guesses, I don't think I could come up with Mike Mignola.
Yeah. It is interesting. Because he has one of the most distinctive styles ever, later on. Yeah. All right, so, Jank, what do you think overall, Rocket Raccoon issue? Will you finish reading the limited series?
Well, I mean, I ended up not picking up that reprint in the comic book store, so that probably tells you something.
All right.
Probably will not finish it. I'll give it probably a 4.
Whoa, it's 4.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I wouldn't say it was the most fun I've ever had, so I had to go just a little bit below average on this one, I think. Again, like Miles said, some good world building. But this would not get me into Rocket Raccoon if this was all I knew of him. It seems like James Gunn came up with a lot of that stuff that people like about him for the movies.
Miles Watson, how do you feel? 1 out of 10, Rocket Raccoon.
I would preface the number I'm about to come up with by saying that I feel like when in reference to Jank's reference of the world building, I feel like this was a waste of effort. I feel like the amount of imagination that went into and the satirical angle, the world building, it could have been harnessed to a much better idea than raccoons and fucking otters and all this stuff and lizards. And I just felt like if you had done a more traditional comic book story with a universe, like there was a lot of imagination that was poured into this kind of crappy vessel that was like a higher level of imagination than this concept deserved. So I think a 4 is about as high as I could possibly go, because even though I was kind of intrigued by the world, because there is a lot there and it was kind of interesting. Like there's a religion, there's 2 factions, there's the police, there's like these nuances, there's the wealth thing of the woman, the otter being like, she's got like a dowry and all this kind of shit, proxy votes or whatever on the board of this toy making. Like there's a lot of shit going on in here, a lot of moving parts. But like Jank had said earlier, this is a limited series. There's too many ideas. It's overflowing. And I think the crime of this is that it was a lot of higher level ability was poured into just an underlyingly dumb, weak concept. So 4, I think, is a little generous, because I was just like, when is this going to be over? I am bored and I don't like what's happening here. It's like going to church for me. So
those are all valid critiques of this book. Nothing that you guys said was wrong at all. But I feel bad giving it 4. I don't know. So I'll give it a 5. I'll give it 1 extra one for the sweet, sweet otter porn. But, yeah, I don't know. It was, like you said, just kind of like a swing and a miss. A good imagination, good effort.
Yeah.
But,
a lot of power. They just didn't connect with the ball on that one.
Yeah. So there is
just like a lot of brain power poured into a hole, really,
Well, for a 4-issue limited series, Miles, would you try and, if you were tasked with doing one, would you approach it like a short story? Because I think you want to get one theme, one idea, and stick with that, and really focus on that. And this probably just had too much going on, right? Just too much going on.
It was too busy for a limited series. I was just kind of shocked at how many ideas they are pouring into this. Like, do you remember when we did the Micronauts, which, as you said, the Micronauts there was a lot going on in that story. A lot. Like, I don't remember the specifics at this point because it's been months, but there was there was a story, and then there was an underlying story, and then there was an overarching universe and everything. And then it was like, wow, there's a lot of ideas in this. It's just a lot for one, for a comic book. And that was a regular series.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like this was just one of those things. It's like if you've ever read a book, if you've ever read someone's short story like Stephen King or whatever, and you realize that there's like a whole universe here that they just barely touched on. And it's like, was this disposable? I don't know. I just feel like you don't harness this level of effort and imagination into something so that should be more simplistic. Like you said, it should just be very straightforward. This is about a raccoon, and I mean, come on, they eat garbage.
Raccoons. Hey, remember Larry used to have a raccoon that lived in his chimney. Do you remember this, Jake? He had like every year. He had raccoons that would go live in his chimney every year.
Oh, there was a terrifying raccoon that lived. There was a gang of raccoons actually that lived near my place in Burbank, and one day they raided the chicken coop of my neighbor and tore it open and killed some of the chickens. And if you've ever wanted to hear a god awful sound in your life, it is the sound of raccoons killing chickens.
Oh no!
Because the screaming woke me up at like 3 a.m, and I was about ready to start opening fire into the backyard. It was that bad. So raccoons can, they roll in gangs.
My parents had chickens, and they weren't gotten by a raccoon, but they did have a weasel that was coming by. Not even eating the chickens, just decapitating them and moving on.
Oh yeah.
They didn't like them.
Who knew?
I also just thought of a raccoon story. Yeah, we all got raccoon stories. My ex-wife, her grandparents, they owned a farm here in Western PA, and they grew up on the farm, And her grandmother, one day their grandfather's out plowing the field there, and he scooped up here's a bunch of like raccoons, little baby raccoons, were like in the dirt, somehow. I don't know what they're doing. So they like basically took these raccoons in as pets. And they would come and live in the house occasionally with them, and they would tell the story that the grandfather, he would come home and he'd go upstairs to the bedroom there, and the raccoon would be in the bed, taking a nap, and he would take the raccoon and just throw him out the window. And the raccoon would just run back in and get in the house somehow, and he would just come right back upstairs.
Oh, raccoons don't give a fuck, man. They're completely fearless. They just don't like. I remember once in my mom's house, this raccoon spread eagled itself on the screen door, looking in the house, and I just wanted to take a shotgun to that son of a bitch because he was so arrogant. Like, I threw things at the door, I yelled at him, and he was just looking at me like, "Let me in. I smell food. You let me in. I don't care about you. You're not scaring me." It was awful. I'm telling you, they're nature's gangsters.
Nature's gangsters.
Yeah, the fact that he was just showing you his cock like that's
yeah, he didn't give a fuck.
Asking for trouble.
They didn't care. And you know how cats are nature's assholes. And I remember that. Yeah, and when I lived in Burbank, the wild cat that I used to feed, he would come, the neighborhood cat. He would eat off one side of this plate, and a raccoon would eat off the other at the same time. And I was like, what fucking conspiracies are these guys coming up with right now? Like, what plans, what plots are being hatched and set into motion?
This is pretty good. I think we should end every episode with Animal Corner, where we just tell animal stories. Because I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah.
All right, so for next issue, I was going to continue the theme of talking animals. I was trying to think of another talking animal we could do. And I almost picked that one samurai rabbit guy, that Usaga Yoshimbo or whatever, that Jimmy
Usagi Yojimbo. Yeah,
yeah.
With the turtle on the show for a while.
Yeah, but I didn't do that. Instead, I went the other way with it, and I just said, hey, you know what? Let's just do more Guardians of the Galaxy. So we're going to do Marvel Presents issue 10 from 1977. This is the original Guardians of the Galaxy team with Martin X and Yondo and Charlie 27 and Vance Astro. Because we've done
special guest Mike L.
No, yeah, Mike L loves Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
because he always tried to pick a book with them, and he did 3. We did a Thor annual, a Defenders, and an Avengers. But every time he picked them, like they're barely in the book. They're like there for like one page. So this way, it's an actual full story of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and we'll get into that next week. So Marvel
Right.
Presents issue 10 from 1977. All right. Well, Miles Watson, thank you for joining us. Everyone should go buy all his books there, 19books.com or Amazon. You can get his books. Cage Life, Knuckle Down, Sinner's Cross, The Very Dead of Winter, The Devils You Know. Buy them all, right, Miles? Buy them all.
Yeah, buy them all now.
Yeah. Make him happy.
Or I won't give you access to the sexy otter that I've got in my basement.
now to get to the,
By the way, Mike
yeah.
Dell, this might get you to go to the theaters here, but, Lila was in the trailer for
What?
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So,
oh no. Oh no, I might have to go. All right.
Yep.
Well, with that in mind, and also let's get to Miles Watson's favorite closing line ever. So until next week, don't get any jank on you.
Oh.